Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Armstrong podcast show. And this evening, I'm joined by the Mighty Pete from the Fire in the Belly podcast. And I think the last time he was on my podcast, I think it was audio only, wasn't it, Pete?
I can't remember. I think it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, because
You didn't get to see my beautiful face.
yeah, in the early days, I just used to do podcasting, and now I do podcasting and YouTubing all at the same time via Zoom. So yeah, so it's great to have you back on and to have you in the flesh this time as well for the YouTube channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here looking my best.
Yes, that's good. So I think I had you on early on. I started my podcast at the end of April, and I started doing dual interviews and chats probably from about the 10th of June onwards. So I guess that's, I think you was on early, in the sort of first week or two of that. So that's quite a while ago now, that's what, 2 months ago, etc. How's the last 2 months been for you?
The last 2 months it's been great actually. There's loads going on, and as usual, we've really sort of stepped up the interviewing campaign. So there's a lot more going out there, which is great. We have some new stuff coming down the pipe as well, which is going to be fantastic. But the speakers have been phenomenal, and it just blows me away. Just the whole process, the Fire in the Belly process is such a strong process. I use it, for interviewing. I use it for my mentees. Um, and there's that. It just, I think, both the questioning, I think the going through the process, going through all that. Yeah, it blows me away, and it truly is it's a guilty pleasure to spend time with people. I gotta admit, sometimes it can be tiring. I would do two, maybe three interviews a day, and given that the average interview is 2 hours long, it's a fairly full on and heavy, and all over the world. So, but it's been great. I've something like I say, I've really enjoyed. So different for me compared to what I used to do. So it's there, but I think we're on about 80 odd episodes now. We have another 30 odds prepped and ready. Yeah, so we're sort of firing on all cylinders at the moment. So I'm really happy, very happy.
Yeah, good, good. It sounds like you've been as busy as me. So good, good, good. I know it can get a bit frazzling sometimes. I think you do longer episodes than me. I only do sort of 30 to 45 minutes. So you must be knackered after sort of 2-hour episodes in a day. But I suppose on top of the 30 to 45-minute episodes I do, which I tend to do 3 or 4 a day, some days more, some days less. But I also do sort of single episodes as well. Do you do any single episodes, or you ever thought about doing any where you're just talking into the podcast yourself?
Yeah, so I have a batch coming out. Just that because getting feedback of people saying they're sort of curious to know my thoughts on things, and I've been doing quite a lot of talks recently anyway. On podcasts, and I've quite a few speaking gigs coming up, in-person gigs coming up as well. So there's loads in the pipeline. Like I say, I'm taking part in a book at the moment as well. So yeah, there's no shortage of stuff. So it's just been a case of, to be honest, with COVID and everything else, doing the interviews and just looking after my kids and getting through the day. That's me maxed out, to be quite honest. And I think also, listening to other people's journeys and properly listening does take quite a bit of energy, and that's the one thing. And also, you also need to sort of decompress after the interviews as well, because intentionally or unintentionally, you can quite often you take on their energy. You take on, and quite often people have had significant, things have happened in their lives, and if you're not careful, you can start almost to take on those stresses. Weirdly, people are just telling you their stories, but yet, the body sort of almost doesn't realize after a while that it didn't happen to me. It's happened to them, but because they're describing it in such detail that you find that you start to almost inherit it. So I think it's something, I'm very careful of now, that I don't take on. It's similar to what I suppose a counselor or a therapist would say, that they don't sort of take on the problems of their patients. It's not, they're not problems, but keeping fresh and keeping active is something I do. So yeah, but it's an amazing time. It's been a great experience, I must say.
Yeah. Well, yours is a lot more, I would say, of a cathartic experience, and you take people right the way through their life. So, if you like, you probably cover a lot more negativity than I do because I don't really delve that deep into the past. I normally delve into, business and lockdown and the future more so than the past. So, yeah, that must be quite draining, listening to that, especially when it goes off for, 20 minutes or 30 minutes if there's a big concentration on something that happened in the past. So yeah, I can see that
Yeah,
being quite heavy.
yes and no. I mean, it can be one of the most empowering things you can do because, quite often it's the past that holds us back, and if you can go back enough, not and to be done in a positive way, but if you can go back and actually, release the connection to the past or change the perspective of the past. There's a lot of NLP. There's other techniques in there as well, But if you can do that, to going back without inheriting all the problems and everything else, you can genuinely change their lives, And I've lost count now. I think I'm responsible for about 8 new podcasts. There's about 6 new businesses. There's been loads going on, and this is in a relatively short period of time, So it's an amazing sort of achievement that the whole fire in the belly process has taken. So it's been a pleasure to be part of it, really, Just goes to
Yeah,
show how effective it's been.
yeah. Well, sort of a combination of you and Aaron were probably responsible for my podcast a bit, So, well, I set up a podcast in December before I knew you and Aaron, but you got me to find my voice finally, because I set it up and then didn't know what I was going to talk about. So I knew I wanted a podcast. I didn't quite have clarity on what I wanted to talk about. And then listening to you guys talk, I actually realized that all I wanted to do was talk to people. That's what I wanted to do. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and it's great. I mean, that's the amazing thing about podcasts is that you get the chance to talk to people. You get the chance, it's your voice. You're the writer, the producer, the editor. It's you choose who comes on, how long it is, what it is. So it's an amazing opportunity. That's the one great thing, and also it's passives too. So once it's recorded, then it can be listened to over and over again. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And I think I don't know if you've done anything since. I did mention to you before about your brand and maybe merching it or merchandising it. Yeah, because I think you've got a really strong brand, and I think it's got a really strong story and message behind it. And I can see that brand selling really, really well. So I just wondered if you've done anything since we spoke on that about the branding.
Yeah, there's quite a bit coming up. So we have masterminds coming up where we have literature, so a lot of branded literature there. So we'll have everything from workbooks through to stationery pads and the obligatory cups and hats as well.
Yeah,
So
a
yeah, so
t-shirt.
there's I haven't at the moment, but yeah, it's something there that's definitely in the pipeline for it. So
Uh,
and it's the quality of the guests that we're getting on, and it's been pretty amazing. And when people are coming on, they're sort of choosing to come, and they're requesting to come on the show. So it's great to see the tides turn and people coming to me, which is a great place to be, really.
Yeah, yeah. I just done a quick lights on because it was getting dark. So sorry for you losing me for 2 seconds, but
Yeah,
it was
grand.
like it was like magic. I was in the dark and then I was in the light again.
No
So
problem.
yeah. Yeah, so the merchandising is happening, and obviously you're doing the online, the coaching, the mentoring. Now, what are you actually? What areas are you covering in your coaching and mentoring and that sort of thing?
So typically it's a mixture. So I do either like a 90-day mastermind. We do one-to-one sessions with that. And, as you found, as you described there, with going through the fire in the belly process yourself, it's very cathartic. It also helps people to sort of look back and through the languages that's used, through the actual process, because honestly, we all think we're fine. It's everyone else has the problem, but we're good, thanks. So quite often when you have the chance to drill back and you look at the good things and the bad things, and um, going through all that and things that you would like and love to do, then once you find you go through all that process is incredibly powerful. And for doing the mentorship there. And I'm a very, I'm business orientated as a person, and I'm an engineer by heart. So, straight away from me, it's a case of once you unlock, then, and someone described actually to me in the interview the other day as like my North Star. Once you find your North Star, that suddenly then you have your point, you have your focus, you know where to go to. So after that, you're building the machine, you're building everything to get things going. So that can be everything from, again, a lot of my clients start podcasts. People will be going through, they're setting up everything from, sort of branding, marketing, online tutorials, mentorship. Could be processes, could be all sorts, so changing their businesses, selling their businesses, bringing in investors. So there's loads. So I focus a lot in terms of business efficiencies. But if you can marry the business efficiencies and the business purpose to the person's values, so what is it you want? Like by nature, I am a property investor. That's my core, my core service, if you like. Do I want to invest in property every day, and does it take up most of my day? Absolutely not. And it's not that I want property and all the sort of the positive and the negatives and the opportunities that come with it, but I want what the property can give me. And that's the key thing, which people sort of say, "Oh, I'd love to get some property," and sort of say, "Why?" And say, "Well, so I've got some residual income, I've got whatever." And you go, "Yeah, but why?" And you go, "Well, I just because." It's like, but for what? What are you trying to create? What are your targets? I have a 10-year goal. I have a 20-year goal. What I want to be doing. I want, where I want everything to be sitting at that time. Where I want my debt level, where I want my, capital value to be. And that's allowing me to do and get towards the life that I want to lead. So, it's huge amount. I mean, I've shifted a lot in mindset. I have a long way to go, but the amount I've shifted in the last couple of years is phenomenal. And yeah, I know enough now to know that I don't know that much. Yeah. And that's been an amazing thing about the journey. So really enjoying it, and every day's a school day.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing. You don't. You don't know. Sometimes you know what you're taking in, and other times you don't know what you're taking in, but you're taking in a lot. If you're listening intently and you're willing to ask the right questions and stuff, you just, sometimes you know what you're taking in, and when you listen to some grandmasters in, personal development and space, you know what you're taking in, but sometimes you don't know what's seeping in, subconsciously as well,
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of reading groups. I'm not a great reader myself. I'm much more a listener, and that's just down to my dyslexia and ADHD. So to bypass that, I basically form reading groups, and that's a super early morning start, and literally we go through basically a book page by page, and and it's great to do some of the amazing books there. And the likes of the Think and Grow Rich and Psycho-Cybernetics and Success Principles, and there's loads, and that in itself is a practice, because people say, well, what the hell are you doing at 5:30 in the morning chatting to random people, and saying, well, that's my decision, because whilst I used to sort of say my memory wasn't great, but the more I go through it and the more, we'll go through books 2 or 3 times. And it's amazing how the second time, the stuff I've highlighted, and I'm sort of going, well, that's relevant, but actually there's more stuff. Why didn't I highlight this the last time? And, so it's understanding that.
Because learning's layered anyway, isn't it? So sometimes you have to have seeked in the first things you highlighted to understand the meaning of the second things you highlighted.
And it's contextual too. It's whatever's going on in your life at that time. I can say something to you today and it means nothing. I can say something tomorrow because of something else has happened, and suddenly it makes perfect sense. So, the more times you go through it, you can, as you say there, you layer it up. So your awareness, your understanding, but more than anything is just being open. It's being open to learning, being open to say, listen, I know enough to say I don't know, or I'm willing to try something different. I've always said you've no right to an opinion until you've tried something, and I believe that more and more. And I just, like I say, I consider myself very grateful and very fortunate to get to talk to successful people pretty much every day of the week. They tell me their journeys. They tell me stuff that they don't often say online, or they don't, say there. I get to talk to them before and after, and that in turn gives me opportunities. Like I say, I've got my early morning reading groups. I spend time with my family. I've got my property business there in the background. I'm contributing to books, so there's plenty going on. And like I say, if I was going to university, I would be studying. I probably wouldn't even be studying as hard. But I sort of said, right, well, if I put myself on this path for the next 3 years or 5 years, and I just continue just every day, just pushing in, it's the old. I really like it. It's the Jack Canfield talks about it in the Chicken Soup for the Soul book, and is one of their business partners, saying, listen, if you basically take an axe and you take a solid swipe at a tree 5 times every day, says even the biggest tree in the forest will come down eventually. If you're same thing, if you take 5 actions every day, it could be 5 interviews, it could be 2 interviews and 3 emails, it could be 5 pages of a book, it could be the power of 5. And actually, I've done a podcast on the power of 5, which is amazing. So I like those wee synergies. I like those wee things, but that's the thing. People sort of, it's the iceberg effect, and people don't always realize that. People see the end result. They don't see that somebody is consistently doing 5 things every day. So it's only 5 things. Sure, anyone could do that. It's like, well, it's true, but not everyone does. Some people might do a couple of things. They certainly don't do it on a Saturday and a Sunday, and they maybe skip out during the week as well. So, I know my podcast goes out 3 times a week. We're going to step that up even further. And I get people saying to me, "It's like this is not normal." Normally people only do, one release a week. And it's like, well, I'm not normal, and I'm on a different path to them. So, it has its, we're cutting our own path, and that's one thing I've found as well is I have to go by what feels right to me. Because when I do get feedback and saying, well, okay, I appreciate the feedback. What sort of qualifies you to give me this? What's your litmus test here? How do I know that this is, that we're talking about the same values and the same thing? And quite often, people can't tell you. They're saying, well, that's just the way it is. And it's like, well, who's everyone? What's average? So at that point, I say, well, listen, thank you for your input. I'm going to keep going. As I've said before, Think and Grow Rich was pretty much built out of 504 interviews, and I'm on path to do my 504 interviews, in the next 2 years or so, and that's my target.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm on a similar sort of mission. To me, I set a target to do 3 podcast episodes a day, and then now I've set it to 10. And I'm quite often hitting 10 or around. I might do 6, I might do 7, I might do 8, I might do 9. I've done 10 a couple of times, but my target is 10, and I try and do 3, 4, 5 duo chats, and then the rest, individual sort of lessons, things. I like to share a lot of the personal development that I've learned, because I'm constantly listening to audio books while I'm exercising sort of once or twice a day. And I like to share what I learn, the gold nuggets or the takeaways from that day. I share it on my personal development, which is good because it's got a constant flow of content then, stuff that you've heard, and what was the best takeaway I remember, and I share that. Plus I share, 30 years of sales, marketing and networking, and probably 20 years of social media knowledge. So just try and share as much value as possible, because one, remembering what you know is important, because you can re-remember it and re-know it and re-challenge it, if you like, and actually just share it into others, and trying to help as many people on the planet as you can through whichever means, whether it be podcast, YouTube, social media. I just like trying to help people however best I can,
Absolutely. Listen, and hats off to you. That's what it's all about. It's, you can't fault someone taking action. Is it perfect? Is it efficient and all the rest? Maybe not. But anyone that's, it's easier to slow someone down than it is to speed them up.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, is saying, well, if you're taking action every day, and I know myself, I'm always, it's the Kaizen principle. I'm always continuously improving. I'm looking to see how I can do things slightly better, how I can make it more efficient, how I can outsource to others, how I can do all that. And listen, my process even through COVID, I didn't know how it was going to go. And I mean, I'm now at a stage, and our whole process is completely changed and evolved, which has been it's been fantastic. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, COVID for me it's been amazing. Obviously, there's the downside of it,
Yeah,
and listen, you wouldn't wish it on anyone, but for me, having the time, having this whole global pandemic, but also shift in mindset has been phenomenal to see and to watch and experience. Um, Giving people the chance to slow down and just to reassess their life, and it could be going, what am I doing? Because sometimes you need the disco lights to turn on, or basically the lights to come on for a while to let you see and reset. And that's the one thing I think has been a massive reset for so many people.
yeah,
And I think their life will be changed. For some people, it will save their lives. They're saying, listen, my stress level, I'll never go back to that, or actually, I'm not doing what I wanted to do. I'm now doing it, and so it's been amazing. And still, every day, it's going. The choice is yours. You want to take action. You want to move forward. You want to adjust. You want to do what you want to do. Is like listen to your gut. Listen to what you really, the language tells you. What would you love to do?
yeah,
What was the sort of thing that you said when you were younger, saying, God, I'd love to do this. And then less than 5 seconds later comes the but. I'd love to do that, but I haven't got the time, but I haven't got the money. I'd love to do this, but I'm not smart enough. And all the paradigms and all the negative influences and all the sort of what your teacher said, what your parents said, what your next door neighbor said, all the things that happened in your life, all the shit that's gone past. There's gone. It's history. It is just that. It's gone.
yeah,
But yet we continue to attach value to it. We continue to attach, and associate some sort of beliefs to it. I failed an exam when I was young, therefore I must be stupid. It's like,
yeah,
well, okay, that was a one-off, you know. So that's what I love to do is to go back and sort of explode those myths, and you can actually see it. We call it stacking in NLP, and but you're stacking all these circumstances that everyone's built it on this way back belief. So something happened, say, I don't know, like I say, you failed an exam at one point, and therefore you then failed another exam, and that was because somebody told you failed the first exam because you're not smart enough, you didn't work hard enough, and then the second exam you stack it on top because, well, you failed that one too, and then the next one you failed because you knew you were going to fail it, and you keep stacking stuff. But if you go back and you actually just like a Jenga block, you start pulling all the blocks into the bottom and going, well, how do you know that? And say, well, everyone said I was stupid. Okay, who's everyone? It's like, well, all the teachers. Okay, which teacher? Well, I don't know. Some teachers, I'm sure. So it's like, okay, so we don't know. We didn't hear any teacher. We didn't hear any. Did your parents tell you you're stupid? No. Okay. So we've now just realized that actually nobody has told you you're stupid. You failed an exam just because, for something that you're very young. But suddenly you see this whole Jenga block fall because they built this one thing on everything that's happened in their lifetime. And you're kind of going, actually, maybe I'm not stupid. And that's all we need them to do. We don't need them to say, God, I'm smart. We need to say, well, actually, maybe that whole belief system that I had that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't smart enough, or I wasn't capable enough, or whatever. We just need to rock the whole thing and just pull the pin out. And
yeah.
suddenly they're saying, well, actually, all my beliefs that says I'm stupid, that's not built on anything. That's just not true anymore.
It's false
And,
information.
and suddenly that's what you call a breakthrough.
Yeah,
Suddenly people going, and you can see them almost, their eyes start darting, and they're sort of going, well, I don't know anymore, because I've always I always believed that was the case.
yeah.
So it's amazing, and I love doing that through the process, and just seeing people being where they're supposed to be. So not quite sure why I went off in that rant, but there we go.
Yeah, but you said, like, quite a few people you've interviewed and now found their voice and have gone podcasting, etc. And I think this reflection time has done that. It's accelerated a lot of people to find their voice and to talk about their passion and their reason for doing whatever they do. And I think Zoom has helped with that as well, because people are used to sort of communicating online. So I think the amount of YouTubers and podcasters and broadcasters of some kind that are going to be sort of a result of this situation, if you like. I think people are always very fearful of stuff they've not done, and so speaking online and communicating with something a lot of people, just like public speaking, but Zoom is like our middle ground. It's not public speaking, even though you are speaking to a lot of people sometimes on an event. You're only really speaking to the couple of people you're looking at, or yourself, or whatever. And it's like it's like an easier step up, if you like, than having to try and do it in a big arena. And I think yeah, a big part of, I think, leadership and success, and that is being able to communicate effectively with people and be able to share your passion and your story and your reason why, and all those sort of things. So I think hopefully the small percentage of successful people and the masses of other people who just end up working for someone else, I think hopefully this whole situation might make that small percentage slightly bigger. Just if some more people can go and find their why and actually get involved in doing what they want to do in life, and not just becoming a sheep and doing what everyone else does, then I think it would have been a good reset, and there's another 100,000 people, or however many people having a better life.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about it is, like, people forget that, like it's only about 5% of the population listen to podcasts, you know, and there's a lot of people don't even know how to listen to a podcast and things like that, So, I mean, the market, while it's growing all the time, and I think it's a great medium. Now, for me, it's only about 5% of my overall strategy. It's one of my tools in my box. It's certainly not my only one, and we're building a whole ecosystem around it, and it's part of it. But you know, I wouldn't rely on it on its own. However, it's an amazing mechanism, and it is quite cathartic to talk openly because, like I say, I generally learn the most when I immerse myself in it. So, if someone says, right, I need you to sit down and design this presentation, and here's a nice quiet room to work in, that'll drive me mad. Whereas if you say, right, well, we need you to go and stand and present to 10 people or 100 people or whatever it is, well, suddenly my subconscious mind actually goes into overdrive, and suddenly it sort of steps forward and takes the stage. And I almost have to record myself and going, I have no idea what I just said, but that was pretty amazing. And but that comes from years of, it's almost every single podcast you learn something, every book you read you learn something, and you sort of don't even realize that your subconscious mind is taking it in. And that's the problem. I used to think, oh, sure, what's the point? I can't learn anymore. I literally felt like my brain was full, and it's like a conveyor belt or a table. It's like the more stuff you loaded onto it, then the more that fell off the edges. And then you realize it's like, listen, you have no idea the sort of capacity of your mind, the pictures we can tell ourselves, the visualizations we can do, you know, just everything else just makes you realize. And that's before you even get into smarter techniques about how you learn, how you memorize, how you do everything else. It's just, it's really is, the whole thing is crazy. And, I'm delighted that I'm at that stage in my life where I am, you know, I mean, I didn't used to read for leisure or pleasure. Now, like I say, I'll read, I'll listen. I listen to probably guts of 70 to 100 podcasts, or 70 to 100 books a year. Like I say, I'm part in a reading group pretty much every morning. I go through and I'm talking. I'm always listening. The radio and TV don't exist for me. I'm always audio. I'm always podcast. So it's crazy, and but it's amazing if people want to, for a very low cost. In fact, sometimes no cost or low cost, you can have a voice out there. There's podcast services, there's Zoom, you can talk to anyone in the world. You can connect through Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. So, people saying I haven't the time or having the money or whatever, to be honest, it's nonsense. And I know for me, whenever I'm going through with my students and, my clients, is people are, when they find their why, they find their passion, all that stuff goes by the wayside. It's not a case of going, if I want to do it, it's a case of going, I'm doing it. And all I need to know is who can help me, who's going to help me on my way. And if you're not going to help me, frankly, just get the hell out of my way, because I'm going on this journey, like it or leave it. So it's a complete energy shift. So that's what I'm lucky enough to sort of be with people and spend the time to help them do that.
Yeah. And yeah, I had a podcaster on the other day from the States, I think, Miami or somewhere. I got a lot of international guests on recently, and they were saying, podcasting, if you like, is doing to radio what Netflix and box sets and streaming has done to TV. Giving people the massive choice so they can go down whatever niche they want to and consume it all as quickly or as slowly as they want to, rather than having to listen to, broadcast radio, which gives them, content at their pace and at that level, if you like. So, and I didn't really realize that, but after thinking about it, I thought, well, yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and, people don't have to listen to radio anymore and adverts and wait for their music to come on or their topic of conversation. You just go find, what you're interested in, download it all, consume it all, and then get on to another series.
Yeah, it's crazy. And listen, radio studio is going to cost you £200,000 to £300,000, to actually to set up, and you've got licenses, you've got all sorts of crazy stuff. You've got staff. Podcasting, you generally don't have all that. You've an amount of equipment depending on what stage you're at. You can outsource, you can do it yourself, you can do all sorts, and you're available to everyone in the world. Now you're not necessarily, you're not going to get everyone in the world, but you are available to everyone in the world, which is actually, it has a wider reach than most local radios.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. For a minimal cost, put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, what sort of guests have you had on recently? Any memorable ones that you can think of? For reasons why? What were the reasons for that?
There's loads. I mean, the big one, I suppose, was Mark Victor Hansen and his wife, Crystal Hansen there, and for Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, that was just awesome. Really, there's been loads of great guests. Everything from people coming from religion, could be people, and I'm astounded by the resilience of some people. And there was one particular lady that I was interviewing last night, and her current story is sort of saying she is a network marketer as well. She sells essential oils, and it was phenomenal. And as I do, I sort of delved back to where she was from, and very quickly it came in as saying she was physically, sexually, and verbally abused. And it was a pretty horrendous experience, and going through that and talking about court cases and talking about the whole thing. And I've always said, it's like, listen, you never know what's going on behind closed doors. None of us have a right to judge anyone else, because you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their perception of life is, and what I found interesting, and she was very switched on to it as well, is saying, she became a pleaser. So she wanted to please people. And the simple reason was because the more she sort of pleased, or the more she kept quiet and basically didn't make a fuss, the less she got abused. And you kind of going, that's an amazing thing. And I would see, egos, I would see, people pleasing, I'd see all these different traits and going through. But when you actually connect it back to understand why they've developed the belief they have, and quite often that could be a self-protection mechanism.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've had a run of people with, alcoholic parents or fathers. I've had foster cases. We've had everything from narcissistic abuse to, we have had it all. But the amazing thing is to say they're on the guest because they're successful. They're successful, the fact that they're alive today. They're successful because, they financially might be abundantly well off, or, the fact that they're healthy and they're capable. So success can be any of those things. The fact that they have, they've had this situation in their life, and they're pretty awful situations,
Yeah.
but yet they're here today, and it's amazing how many of those people, their mission becomes, and I'm always slightly cautious because I believe there's a saying called "your void is your value," and that can be a little bit dangerous in that, you know, you know, it might be something you didn't have as a kid, so suddenly you want all the people around you never to feel that again, and you kind of going, are you doing it for them or are you doing it for you? So it's always interesting to see where people are in their journey and what stage they're at, but it is so common, and it's quite refreshing to see humanity where they turn around and they want to make sure it doesn't happen to the person behind them. You know, they want to try and change the world by saying, listen, do not let this abusive uh, thing happen to me, or what happened to me, or whatever it was. So all these things saying, you know, just don't let this ever happen again.
Yeah.
And I find that amazing. That's a passion, and it's a real drive. But like I say, to me, it has to come with a bit of a health diagnosis check that they're doing it for the reasons of giving, not, you know, giving to receive is one thing, you know, but giving to give is another. So, you know, it's a bit like you can forgive, but if you haven't forgotten, you haven't really forgiven. So you have to forgive and forget, you know, and you almost have to give and forget. You know, you give something with joy and, you know, and pleasure, and say, listen, this gift is now yours and I no longer have a tie to it. Because it's often people will give with the expectation of thanks or praise or recognition or whatever. And that's not giving. You know, that's sponsorship,
It's
or that's,
exchanging,
it is
negotiating.
exchanging. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, but yet they'll caught themselves and say, you know, oh well, sure. Listen, I gave this and I gave that and I gave the other thing. It's going. The very fact that you're keeping count tells me something. You know, so
Yeah. In my experience in life in general, most people who've gone that extra mile and really had some real level of success, there's nearly always something major that happened in the past that actually helped them to that success.
yeah,
What's your thoughts
yeah.
on that?
It's. I mean, I do have a running theory at the moment. You know, it's almost the, you know, the darker the moment, the sort of the brighter the light. You know, and depending on what they've been through, and it's. I think we I would also be cautious in that we hear all the good stories. You know, there's people where,
Yeah, where you don't hear about them, but they've had that bad start and it just carried on.
yeah, exactly, and it never got to, you know, it just engulfed them, you know, and it sort of took over their lives, and you know, so I'm always conscious there that, you know, we're privileged that this person is saying, look, you know, look at me, I came out the other side. So I think, you know, there has to be a sensitivity there, but also, you know, I think, you know, the resilience of people is amazing. It's amazing, you know, when we see a dark place, and I even see that in my own clients, it almost has to be that if it hasn't gotten bad enough for them yet, then they're not ready. You know, they have to be at the stage of saying, I am no longer accepting this quality of life. I'm no longer accepting this relationship or this job or my lack of money or my lack of energy or my frustration or my partner or whatever, until you get to the point of going, listen, I've had enough. This has to change. You know, because you're sort of going, well, you know, I haven't. I'm kind of, yeah, money's not great now, you know, but it's a
Uh,
job, you know, and that's a lukewarm. That's not a commitment. You know, the problem is you almost need to get closer. You know, it's a bit like Icarus and getting closer to the sun. You know, it's almost like you need to feel the heat before you do it. So
but that's
there
why
is,
my belief is that's why there's so many people underperforming, if you like, and just coasting through life and not really achieving much, just being a sheep and a hamster on a wheel, because unfortunately there's too many people in our society who have it too easy and they don't have that big push factor or pull factor to actually make them really want to go and do something. And that's why I think generally the more successful people are the ones who have had a massive push or a massive pull somewhere in their life. A lot of the time it's when they're young, but it can happen later on as well. But I see then that that is what really drives them to keep going and going and going to ultimately get to that level of success, whatever that level be. And I think maybe that's so because our society is so nice and so many people are refrained from getting into those problems anymore. That's what is limiting those people. That percentage is so small. The 10% or the 1% that go on and actually get real success, because there's only that small percentage of people that really experience that major burn from the sun, or that major thing that make them so driven to just go on and be successful.
Mm. Listen, it's relative to everyone, and I've seen people, and recently we've had a spate of, interview and people talking to us whereby, that their opening words are almost going, I had a very normal and privileged life. Now generally there is always something has happened, but to somebody else and going, is that it? Is that the worst thing that happened in your life? And sort of go, yeah, but it doesn't matter the event. I mean, the event could be, there is there a scale? I don't know, but it's relative, and it's relative to us. It could be a word from a teacher. It could be an event. It could be, something horrendous. It could be something that's done to us, not for us. It could be, 50 things. But flip side is, I think no matter who you are, you've got to find a reason why. As you say, if life's just comfortable and you sort of go, well, I could do it, but again, they don't have a drive, they don't have a why. Everyone has a why or reason.
Yeah, as
And
Les Brown says, you got to be hungry.
yeah, that's it. And that's absolutely true. And it doesn't matter. And even if it's not for you, it could be that, you could be emotionally charged and saying, look at, it's almost for me, and I sort of say to people, it's like, how dare you? If you have capabilities, you've got arms and legs, you've got a warm roof over your head, and you've got, skills and abilities. And yet there's other people in the world that don't have that. And they would give everything for what you have. And yet you have it and you don't really care.
No, you don't
You know,
appreciate it, or
you
even
don't appreciate it.
acknowledge it.
Yeah. So it's hard. So some people are saying, well, okay, just have an appreciation for what I have is saying, I don't need to have had any bad circumstance in my life, but quite simply, you might turn around and say, by the very fact that, I have what I have, and I should, absolutely cherish it. And my duty is to pass that on, or to help others, or to even go through. And funny, I'm reading at the moment, The Science of Getting Rich, and it's great. And saying it is absolutely your job to be as wealthy as you can. And it's almost like people go, well, that's a bit, it's almost, you don't speak about wealth like that, and saying, because the wealthier you are, the more you can help, and people sort of go, and again, even in this country, and we do have it, people get on so well, and people want to almost tear you down,
Yeah.
and even there, I mean, they talked about Bezos there, he's been, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he's been getting a bit of heat in the press recently about his pay packet. And
Yeah.
I personally am saying, absolutely, pay the man. He's
Yeah.
worth every penny.
Well, without Jeff Bezos, a lot of people would have had a much worse lockdown.
Yeah. I mean, there's 50 things. The man reinvested dividends, way past. He reinvested into the companies when everyone else saying they should have been, having a payday for the shareholders and all the rest. And he stuck to his morals, and he invested. He just built a bigger machine and all the rest. And then, of course, people saying he should pay more tax and all the rest, and saying, well, why should he? Why should he be denied? The man has worked his socks off, and he's seeing the fruits of his labor and all the rest. And I don't know. I always find it's just now slightly ironic that people want to tear them down and saying, well, okay, have you we don't know what legacy projects they have in mind. What they're giving back. There's Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. They have foundations. A lot of these guys that are mega wealthy have foundations, have intentions, have ideas.
Yeah, and
But
I
yet
think
we're all.
that's the thing with Jeff Bezos is that I don't think too many people know at the moment. But my guess is he'll find some way of giving that money back. And to me, he's there to be shot down if he didn't do something like that. To me, if he just was to just you know keep earning off the population and never really give back. because somebody, at the end of the day, he's so good at what he does, he can't help but cause waves to other people. And so sometimes you've got to look at those other people. He's such a good businessman, and he's going to be responsible for a lot of people losing their business. And that's what people get a bit upset by that, because he's a better business person than them. And I think what he's doing is fine to have a better proposition and offer a better value to society. But at some point, I think, just from a human point of view, that at some point you can keep earning wealth and wealth and wealth, but at some point you should give it back, or help. If you've caused some damage along the way in your big ship, steering it off and being better for society, but you should still at some point give something back to society, because it's just a social thing to do. It's just a nice thing to do, isn't it? It's not something that you have to do. But I like Bill Gates and his foundation, and Zuckerberg and all these. I'm a philanthropist without all the cash, because I just like helping people. And I'd like to see at some point that, even if you've been driven to just earn and earn and earn, but at some point you think, actually, let's leave a bit of a legacy and let's just give back a bit, So people are jealous at the moment and they don't know what good he's doing. But at some point, my guess is he'll do some good somewhere.
My take on it is up to him. I don't think he has to do anything. I don't think he has to give it back.
No, I don't think he has to. I just think it's decent. I quite like the ones who do. I like the people who do decide, actually.
Yeah.
It's his choice. Yeah, but it's a personal choice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, exactly. I mean, if you work hard, but it's all perception, because, and especially in America more so, people tithe. So people give a tenth to the church. I know a lot of people would say, well, I'm not doing that. Or I know people that, maybe pay off, help their parents out, or help siblings out, or help other people out, and it's like, it's personal choice.
Yeah.
My point, I suppose, with Bezos is, it's none of our bloody business what he does.
Not really.
And it's like, and sort of saying he's put all these people out of business. Like, no, they put themselves out of business.
Yeah, well, because they didn't come up with as good a value proposition as he did.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's always flaws. There's flaws in the Amazon system. There's flaws in all the systems. And it's yet, unfortunately, and that's what's happened with COVID, is there's been businesses that aren't really businesses. They're more like, saving schemes that are slowly being dwindled. It's almost like I was paying myself to stay in a job, and unfortunately, it's going to see the lights out for a lot of those businesses. Is that regrettable? Of course it is regrettable. But at the same time, you might go, well, listen, the party was well over long before COVID, and this is just the final, nail in the coffin.
That's the thing, the people that are going out of business were going out of business anyway. If COVID had knocked any businesses out of business, then they were going out of business anyway. They were just doing it the slow way, and COVID just sped up the process. It just highlighted the flaws.
There's loads been going on, so I listen, and it's things like, I always find it sort of interesting. I know it's experience with my own parents, and they both had cancer and died, but the thing is, the cancer didn't actually kill them in the end. The amazing thing is they were caught a cold, or something else would have happened. So it's a bit like, when things go on around you, it's people always blame the last thing. It's a bit like, I don't know, if someone breaks something, you go, well, you're the last one to touch it. And you kind of go, well, it was fractured and it was worn and it was there, and I had a problem. But it's just like, you're the poor bugger that was left holding it at the last second when it went, and suddenly you get all the blame. And it's like, okay,
it's like taking a friend's car out or something, and you get a puncture, and it's like, oh, it's your fault and you took it out. When it's like, not all the billions of times you took it out, that wore it down to the stage, like giving a puncture when I took it out.
Yeah, and then people sort of go, oh, Murphy's Law, or just my luck, or all the usual stuff, is like, why did it happen to me? But so I think the one thing I've learned is, no matter what, is we've got to be careful just jumping on the blame bandwagon, and we don't know, because Bezos is a very private guy, a lot of them are, and it's like, listen, it's his choice. He's done it. It's absolutely up to him, and we should not judge him just because he does or he doesn't. In my opinion, and the same, because you get people there that are wealthy that give away nothing. You give away, some poor people that are, can't give away anything. flip side is, and that's the whole point of the science of getting rich, is saying, the richer you are, the more you can help. So in some ways, you kind of going, yeah, please, Jeff, do better things, because there's Elon Musk. He's doing stuff for space travel and other foundations there. That's literally is changing the world. He's changing our transport systems. He's changing all this. Should the man be rewarded? Absolutely. But eventually you do get to the stage where there's only so much money you can spend, and do, but eventually but it's all energy anyway. It's all just there, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And someone else will come along soon anyway. Before Jeff, it was, Facebook and Warren Buffett. And before that, it was like, steel industries and coal industries. And before that, it was other stuff. And there'll always be something else come along anyway. And, if he's earned that money, then he can do what he wants with it. It's just, for me, I'd like to see people give something back. So if he does give something back, then great. I like to see people actually, you don't have to give back to a cause or anything. In fact, doing what Elon Musk is doing is great, because that's like what Elon's doing is growing the humankind for the future. Looking at ways of innovating and creating a legacy for the human race, if you like. If he does what he does and gets us into other planets and outside of Earth, then if anything ever happens to Earth, the human race may survive beyond that. So I think that, or anything like that, that's really giving back to society and really helping move us on, in a great direction. I think so. Someone like Elon Musk, I think I really respect somebody like that.
Yeah, and listen, we all, I think you're entitled to the rewards of, for the effort that you put in, really, and whatever their beliefs are, whatever they do. Listen, I say to anyone, there's absolutely now it's there where, quite often it's that old saying, what is it about them that you don't like about yourself? And it is that, and I know that's a big saying of Pat Slattery's, and there's other people there, and you're sort of going, it's amazing, it's like, well, he's not giving back enough. It's like, well, what are you giving back?
Yeah.
He's not doing this. Well, what are you doing? What are you taking your time? Like, well, when I get rich, I'm going to do this. Okay,
Yeah.
you could do it today. So I don't know. Like I say, I do. I've always had that mindset. People are very public opinion and sort of almost this trial by media and all the rest. And I quite often just take a back view. And again, it's a bit like with the life stories. Is we have no idea what's going on in someone's life or their story, or what they might have had an absolutely awful day and everything's going wrong for them, all the rest, and yet we judge them because of the way they react to us. As humans, we're all so busy in our own heads or in our own lives that everyone thinks everyone's watching you. It's like, well, they kind of are, but really they're so busy watching themselves that it's insignificant the amount of time and attention they're paying to you. And frankly, if they're judging you, they're just basically averting their own judgment. That's all they're doing. So we need to just take a breath and just accept that everyone means well until they prove otherwise. And just sort of say, well, listen, I'm out there to do good things, and good things will happen to me.
Yeah, good. So you mentioned you've got a couple of speaking gigs coming up. Where are they to, and what events are they, so that any of the listeners and any of the YouTube watchers can keep an eye out for them?
Well, I can't say yet. Some of them will be announced in the next month or so. So they're pretty big
These are
gigs.
real world events, yeah, not online ones.
Yeah, so all real world. So there's a fair bit going on, which is super exciting times. And it's sort of life changing stuff for me, and it's great. And that's I'm very grateful for those opportunities, and that's the whole thing. Is listen, we continue to push forward every day. So, but yeah, it's.
So I guess you'll be sharing them when you can go public with them then. Where's the best people to follow you or engage with you? Where you're going to put that out when at the right time?
So all the usual social media channels. So at Mighty Pete, at Mighty Pete is the Facebook handle, or you can go to fireinthebelly.net/Facebook. fireinthebelly.net/YouTube, fireinthebelly.net for all the main content, or fireinthebelly.net/podcast for the podcast. So, there's all those links there for people. And yeah, I think the sort of myself and the social media team there, they're pretty prolific at pushing stuff out all the time, which is great, but it's amazing, the number of people we've spoken to, and giving them an opportunity, and sharing audiences, and sharing experiences. It's been a beautiful journey, and I'm so grateful for everything so far.
Yeah, good. And these events going to be in Ireland or UK?
Next year, so we've some internationally, and we've a couple in Ireland and international as well. So
there we are. So you're going to be a busy boy.
Yeah, it's great, and like I say, I'm just grateful for the opportunity, really, and exciting things ahead. We're just compounding every day, just building on the value that we can bring. Speaking to more people. Pushing forward. There's a lot of stuff doesn't work. There's days that I struggle. And like I say, I openly say I've kind of struggled through COVID. Between balancing family, between balancing work, my own passions, and believe me, frustration some days is crazy. It's just I want to be doing 50 things, and I get less than 2 things done. In fact, I get minus things done. But that's where the you need your North Star. You need your golden thread. That's the bit where you sort of go, okay, I've had a bad day, but I need to snap back into my, back onto my tracks. I need to, get onto my focus. That's what a train does. A train follows the track. Its goal is set. Its journey is set. Whereas if we're just wandering around aimlessly, then the problem is, it's too easy then the self-doubt and all the buts and the the ego and the conscious mind to start getting in, is going, well, maybe you're not that good after all, or so I get it. Listen, we all get it, I believe, and it takes a very strong focus and passion and drive to to really sort of make sure and concentrate on getting that out there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, brilliant. Well, thanks. Sorry, thanks very much for coming on the podcast and sharing some more wisdom and knowledge and stories, etc., from your experiences. So yeah, it's been awesome having you on.
Thanks, Mike. Keep up the great work. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And there's nothing else left for me to say now, other than have a great day. I know I will. And thanks very much for listening.